Hey everyone, I thought I'd do a quick little 3-part series of how we got to the dogs that we currently have and into special needs dog parenting from the get-go. So to start with, when I moved into this house back in 2018, I got 2 dogs at the time. I got Mr. Toby here, and then I got Thomas. Thomas was 5 months old at the time, and Thomas was a little Bichon. If you scroll back far enough in our videos, you will see some videos of Thomas. Toby here is a Shih Tzu. I got Toby at 8 weeks old. And then when their dad moved in 2019, he brought along Barkley. But we're going to start the series with Toby and Thomas. So back in 2018, I moved into this house. I got Toby, I got Thomas. And Toby is probably our most healthy dog out of all of them. Toby has only had to go to the vet a couple of times aside from normal vaccinations and things like that. And then Thomas, at the age of 2, was he started having seizures and was diagnosed with epilepsy. We ended up going to a specialist. Her name is Dr. Yemens. Dr. Yemens is the most amazing neuro doggy vet out there, in my professional opinion. And Dr. Yemens ended up diagnosing Thomas with idiopathic meningitis and encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain, which was causing his epilepsy. And Thomas had always been kind of a sickly dog since I got him. He was the runt of the litter, but I was told he was vet checked and healthy at the time. And again, his symptoms didn't start till he was age 2. And after age 2, he did finally start to get somewhat controlled with his seizures once we started seeing Dr. Yemens. And by age 5, he was on 5 different medications 3 times a day that kept him healthy, or as healthy as Thomas could be. And Thomas, I used to always joke, was like my little soul puppy, my little old man, because he didn't like anyone but me, including their dad. But he was just a grumpy little old man dog. And at the age of 5, he was on 5 different medications 3 times a day. And that kept Thomas. And I had always told our regular vet that as long as Thomas was Thomas, I would continue to do everything I could for him. But when that time came that Thomas was no longer going to be Thomas, we would make the tough decisions if we had to. And we were just along for the journey. I didn't believe in giving him up. I didn't believe that we should get rid of him or put him in a different home or anything like that. I am fully in the mindset that once you get a dog, you should keep the dog no matter what. I do work in healthcare, so maybe that's why that is my personal beliefs. You don't have to believe the same. And I understand that, and I understand there's circumstances where people don't feel like they can keep their pets, but that was never an option in my mind when Thomas was diagnosed. So at 5 years old, Thomas was on 5 different medications 3 times a day, and some of them were very expensive medications, but we made it work. And we always made sure that one of us was home, or we had somebody that could come over that would give Thomas his meds and get him taken care of. Last year, actually on Black Friday, so around this time last year, Thomas had a seizure. And if you've ever witnessed a seizure and know anything about seizures, there's a thing called a postictal state, which is the, kind of out of it states that they're in after a seizure. And Thomas just wasn't really coming out of it. And so I called his neurologist on Black Friday, and she happened to be there. And she told me they are 2.5 hours from where we live. She told me to drive up there and get him to her immediately. So we did. And God bless Dr. Yemen. She looked at him, and she determined that his symptoms were not related to his seizures or his neurological disorders. And by the time, mind you, this started that morning, by the time we got him there, Thomas had already started bleeding into his abdomen and was in multi-organ failure. And they ended up determining that he had a very rare, very aggressive form of cancer called hemangiosarcoma that usually only affects old, large dogs. Thomas was a 5-year-old, 7-pound dog. So he was a 1 in a million. and by the time we got there, it was too late. They told us that he had a very, very slim chance of surviving a life-saving surgery and would likely not survive it. I ended up looking up those statistics later, and it was a 3% chance that he would live more than 90 days if we did try the surgery. And they didn't think he was a good candidate for it as it was. So we ended up having to make the decision to go ahead and put Thomas down, which was very hard to do, but I sat there and held him for his last breath. And Dr. Yeomans, even though it wasn't neurologically related, sat in the room with me, and she was the vet that was present. So I cannot speak highly of her enough. So that is how we got into special needs dogs in the first place, was Thomas, because I got him as a puppy, not realizing he was going to be special needs. And he was really our first special needs dog. He was the first dog I had ever owned after I moved out on my own. And I miss him a lot, but that is how we got into this in the first place. So Thomas did pass away last year, but you will still see him in some of our older videos. Toby is still hanging in there. And our running joke is that Toby is probably going to be blind, deaf, and toothless, and still running around at like 20 years old. Toby is the healthiest dog we have. He's one of the more stubborn dogs we have, but he is just a little love over here. And I'm going to call this the end of part 1. So that's Toby and Thomas's story and how I got them. I will post part 2 at some point, which will be how we ended up bringing Barkley into the home and then getting Briar, our German Shepherd. And then the final part of this get together here, or this series, is going to be how we ended up with Bruce and Blair, which are 2 current special needs puppies, our 2 special needs Rottweilers that just turned 1. So have a good day.